Greetings, everyone. This is Umby, and we're a little bit late, but we're back with coverage for week 6 of the VGC Draft League. As far as the delays, we did have to delay the match. There's some personal issues with my opponent there, so we did get that played later on this week in week number 7. It's actually a double header, so I keep an eye out for week number 7's video shortly after this. Also some delays because with this video, because it was my birthday and I decided to turn it into a complete potato, didn't want to do anything. And also there's some TCG stuff that I was doing outside as well. So got to touch the grass a little bit, but we're back here in the digital world trying to do this coverage here. But yeah, week 6 versus Killjoy this time. And I know early on I did criticize their team a bit because it's so front loaded into the Cresselia Ursaluna, which we know to be a very strong combination on its own. It gets particularly more powerful in a draft league setting because typical answers that you want to force into those two Pokemon, they're not going to be on every team, so it allows a lot of agency in different matchups. But wasn't too impressed with a lot of the options behind that. I think Pachirisu is kind of a nice option as far as support goes, but didn't seem to really do anything synergistic. Particularly for them. Like normally you want to see like strong water or flying type Pokemon to go along with it so it can draw in those electric moves into itself. Still works fine as a support Pokemon outside of that, but those are kind of the core things I was looking when like evaluating their squad. All that's to say though is that because this is so front loaded into Cresselia Ursaluna, and because I don't necessarily have all the answers for dealing with it safely, this matchup is actually a little bit troublesome for me. I have to rely a little bit on Salamence's Intimidate to hopefully slow down the Ursaluna, but even that still doesn't completely do the job. If they throw out the Facade after Guts is activated from the Flame Orb, my only resistant Pokemon are Heatran and Iron Thorns, both of who are double weak to its other stab, which is Ground. And it's kind of hard to balance my terastallizations around that, so I'm expecting to take on some water, some collateral damage along the way. So I just have to plan to shutting down the Cresselia and then dealing with Ursaluna as the match goes on, which I believe I have the tools to do so. It should be taking some chip damage from the burn damage, and then eventually, hopefully I get to like something like Salamence or Vaporeon. But yeah, that was the general plan, the ways of stopping up the Cresselia, which is my number 1 priority. If Trick Room ever goes up, game's just done. Dead in its tracks for me, and I can't come back. Gardevoir with the Imprison Trick Room. I was a little bit hesitant about this one because another player, I forgot who it was, used this early on in the season, so they may have been prepared for that. I was thinking about even something like a double taunt somewhere just to get around the mental herb, but this is just the easiest option, and also stops up the Protect, allowing me to attack freely into whatever I need to, and also Moonblast if the Cresselia is carrying that, which would otherwise threaten my Salamence. Also looking at Vivillon with the Compound Eyes. Really wanted Friend Guard, but if I'm kind of speccing into this strategy where the Sleep Powder is my other way of stopping the Cresselia, I want to make sure that it hits more often than not. The combination of Intimidate and Friend Guard would have been very well welcome to help slow down the Ursaluna a bit, but this is what we opted into. Sleep Powder, Pollen Puff, Rage Powder, just in case. All 3 moves really good for supporting the team, helping me get some breathing room to take care of these 2 monsters there. And then Vaporeon, my other support option, with Baby Doll Eyes, another way to slow down the Ursaluna a little bit, particularly if Trick Room goes up, just as a priority option. Otherwise, I would definitely prefer Charm. That -2 matters quite a bit, in my opinion. But also Helping Hand was kind of a combination I was thinking in tandem with Salamence, just to make sure that something like Terra Dragon Outrage could kill something. Speaking of which, Salamence with the Dragon Fang and Terra Dragon, we're really trying to max out the type of damage that it's doing, because if I can land a good strong hit onto Cresselia and either 1 or 2 hit KO it, then I think that I'm in business. It just offers so much support for the team that stalls any of my efforts for getting rid of Ursaluna that I just have to get rid of it as soon as possible. But then Heatran and Rillaboom are business as usual. I picked up Hammer Arm just as a way to target down the Bisharp just in case I needed to, but also it'll lower my speed, so if the Trick Room does go up and I end up landing one of these, it's just another way that I could potentially outspeed or underspeed something under Trick Room to help out a little bit. And then Heatran, this one I had a tough time deciding what I really wanted to do with. Just opted for leftover substitute. It's just a way to slow play the game, because it's not really going to pick up knockouts immediately. Never picks up a knockout onto the Cresselia, especially if it goes Calm Mind. Never picks up a KO onto the Ursaluna, because I'm expecting something like Terra Normal to go through. And I'm not going so deep in the pocket that I'm running like Terra Fighting and Terra Blast to try and counteract that. So yeah, just gonna play these two as normal as possible, and everything else is kind of stretching the boundaries of what I typically do to try and solve for this matchup. As far as like the Terra sheet goes, everything seems very typical. Ursaluna with Terra Normal, like we expected. Pachirisu with Terra Flying and Lumineon with Terra Ground. Obviously trying to prepare for the Sandy Shocks. It's not something that I've used very frequently, but it's something that's seen as kind of like a threat from my team that they just want to go ahead and prepare for. But the Cresselia not showing Terra Fairy there, I was incredibly happy to see that. I was like, okay, I have a lot of room to launch these dragon moves off of, which may carry the game for me. So yeah, we'll go ahead and take a look at that now. All right, we saw which Pokemon they were bringing from that Terra sheet from earlier, so we'll just go ahead and get straight into this. I'm leading Rillaboom and Vivillon versus their Ursaluna and Cresselia lead. So they decided to go straight into it, expecting that I don't really have too much to stop them from just doing the thing, just setting up the Flame Orb, Facade, everything, destroy everything. I go for a Sleep Powder knockoff into the Cresselia, knowing that I'd have to shut down that Trick Room, and that gives me some breathing room to then deal with the Ursaluna behind that. Everything's going to plan. They end up using Terra Normal Ursaluna. I Rage Powder the incoming Facade there, knowing that I have that Focus Sash, and that allows me to get some damage with the Wood Hammer onto the Ursaluna. I know they're not going to go for a double protect, so I decided that this is a good time to go for that attack in the Ursaluna slot and deal with Cresselia later, until it turn 1 wakes up and uses Trick Room, and now I'm in a whole world of trouble. I bring in Salamence to get that -1 from the Intimidate, hoping that's enough to save the Rillaboom from the Facade. It is not. Even with the bulk investment, even with that -1, getting past the Terra Normal is just not in the cards at this point. This also helps me save a Protect from the Vivillon here. I'm going to have to stall out these Trick Rooms somehow in order to try and fight back. Go for a Rage Powder Terra Ghost, just to help out with that a little bit here. Stored power shown from the Cresselia for the double up, knocks out the Vivillon, and this buys me some time to Dragon Claw the Ursaluna, but it's still not enough to KO. And even with that burn damage, since that grassy terrain is up, it is healing and staying alive past this turn. I've got left as the Heatran, which fortunately decided to go for the Drain Punch. This is kind of an indicator that they're running Earthquake and don't want to show it over the grassy terrain in fear that it still might not KO. But the Drain Punch gives us some sustain, some good damage to the Heatran, but allows me to live and get up a substitute. So with the leftovers in grassy terrain, I get some healing out my own self. I follow up with another Dragon Claw into the Ursaluna, but it is very bulky, so it's still going to be very hard to take down. I go for a double protect here through Salamence and Heatran, as it protects the same. Here at the end of this Trick Room, Cresselia is content, just can keep supporting with that Lunar Blessing though, keeping that Ursaluna pretty healthy at this point here. Still in trouble. These are my last 2 Pokemon. I've got to cut through Cresselia, Ursaluna, and now Typhlosion shows. I go for an Outrage. It does land onto the Cresselia and does pretty significant damage here. Go for a Heat Wave. It does avoid hitting the Cresselia, which is a little bit crucial here, because in this following turn, I think if that Heat Wave lands, I go for another Heat Wave just in case this Outrage targets Typhlosion, which it does. But instead, I try and cover with the Earth Power just in case it does hit the Cresselia, and that allows me to then target the Typhlosion there. Still Heat Wave, just rocking that still might have been a little bit safe, gets more chip damage into the Cresselia there. I go for a Protect. It's the first turn of Trick Room. We're expecting Protect from the Ursaluna there, but they just go straight into the Earthquake and get rid of my substitute there, unafraid of the Salamence at all. So there's a wasted turn from me, a lot of misplays, or at least some good call-outs from my opponent here. All I can do here is get 1 Heat Wave, get some tip damage here, but it's still not enough to claw back this game just at this point. Easy Protect call there, lands some Facade from the Ursaluna into my own Salamence there. And now it's down to the Heatran, which I gotta like triple protect through Trick Room, which anyone can tell you that's not happening here. So a pretty solid victory from my opponent here, only really showing Ursaluna and Cresselia. The Typhlosion did go down, but they didn't even have to show their 4th option there. So it's pretty jammed up after that turn 1 wake up from the sleep powder that I landed, and that's going to get us into a game number 2 where I have to kind of stay alive here. And besides, there's nothing to really mix up here as far as leads. The Vivillon Rillaboom I think is still a good lead. We just got unfortunate with the sleep powder turns here. However, I did try and read too much into my opponent without conditioning them. So I go for a fake out into the Cresselia and a sleep powder into the Ursaluna, just in case they wanted to facade early, but they don't have a need to overextend here. They can just safely set up their Flame Orb through the use of Protect. So this is a bad play for me and a wasted turn, which means I have to try and go into Salamence, get that -1. I know if they target the Salamence slot that it's going down, but hoping that the -1 will be enough to save something like the Rillaboom coming back in, taking on too much damage. It doesn't have Protect to try and outplay the Ursaluna, right? But they go for Terra Normal, which counteracts that -1. I go for a Pollen Puff into the Cresselia, and I do get the knockoff into the Cresselia for the double up and for the KO there. But Ursaluna is still free to attack with Facade, which with Terra Normal, even with that -1, is still more than enough to take down my bulky Rillaboom. So now I'm down to my last 2 Pokemon. I don't have a lot of damage behind me. I gotta try and stall this out as best as I can. I can't even put the Ursaluna to sleep thanks to that Burn Orb. Go for a Protect on the Vaporeon. I kind of know that the Sleep Powder has to hit the Pachirisu here, because if we do any of these Follow Me's, I never get the Pollen Puff into the Ursaluna or even my own Vaporeon to help keep it topped off. However, if I can stall out a little bit by going for Baby Doll Eyes, then I might be in business here. So go Baby Doll Eyes into the Ursaluna there, get some damage on the Pachirisu, which I have to get cleared out of the way so that Follow Me isn't taking effect here. Facade goes into the Terra Ghost Vaporeon as expected. With the Grassy Terrain up, I was pretty safe from Earthquake as well here, which I don't want to use anyway because they end up hitting their own Pachirisu. Pachirisu is still asleep, good for us because we get to Pollen Puff and follow it up with Muddy Water. Right, but they show Lumineon for the first time, so that's unfortunate for me. The first time I'm showing Vaporeon is the first time they're showing Lumineon. So I'm not sure if that was a call out or what the thought was behind there, but now the Ursaluna comes back in, full health, Terra Normal, no attack drops at this point. Double Protect to try and scout out what it is that they want to do, and it's Tailwind from the Lumineon. Not going to stop the Baby Doll Eyes, fortunately, but that does get it ahead of the Vivillon, so I'm going to have to do something like either Rage Powder or Pollen Puff. Like, I can't really do too much in this particular situation, but I am content to try and just Baby Doll Eyes the Ursaluna to slow it down. I do end up getting a Sleep Powder off into Lumineon, which will save me some trouble later on down the line, but at this point, I can't hit the Lumineon. So I'm gonna play it out just in case my opponent makes some kind of mistake here. Maybe there's some kind of way I can stall it out. It's just in my creed to keep it going, no matter what. They go for a Protect, get some chip burn damage, and we get to continue Baby Doll Eyesing the Ursaluna here. Then I realized on Terra Ghost, their only attacking moves are Facade, Earthquake, Drain Punch. So they can only hit me with Earthquake, which means they can only hit their Lumineon with Earthquake. So eventually it will go down. I go ahead and Protect here to stall out some more burn damage onto the Ursaluna. Lumineon goes for a Tailwind here, which is inconsequential. I still get to use Baby Doll Eyes whenever I want to, Protect whenever I want to, and I will continue doing just that. My Citrus Berry on the Vaporeon is still intact, which is very crucial. Activates right there. So that buys me another turn where I can still use Protect, Baby Doll Eyes. We're just going to stall this out as best as we can until that Tailwind goes down, until that burn damage does enough that like I'm very comfortable launching in Muddy Water. So at this point, Earthquake brings me down to 42% health. Muddy Water goes in, not enough for a KO. We've invested a lot in the bulk rather than into special offense here, and with good reason. Go for a Protect for some more burn chip damage, and this just ensures that like if the Muddy Water misses next turn, I can still Protect, and at that point I can the burn damage will still be more than enough to KO the Ursaluna there. All right, so by the skin of our teeth and with honestly a little bit of luck, we managed to claw out a game number 2. Yes, in game number 3, where at this point we've got to mix it up if we want a shot at clearing this game. So we start off with the Gardevoir this time. Probably should have done it as far as early as game number 1, quite honestly, but I just wanted to play on the safer side in case they were prepared for that. But Imprisoned Trick Room's gonna be the lead here. We also get a -1 onto this from the Salamence. At this point, we're just expecting the same play each time. Trigger and protect from the Ursaluna Cresselia because my opponent doesn't have to overextend or overthink this first turn. They have to, I'm forced to react here. So Salamence gets a free switch out into the Rillaboom with that expectation. Trick Room gets full stopped here. All right, now you get a Woodhammer into the Ursaluna, hoping to double up from the Moonblast. We'll get the KO here, but just out of range, unfortunately. And they get a Facade into the Rillaboom. And even with that -1, Terra Normal again rearing its head and showing it's more than strong enough to clear out these Pokemon, which is kind of crucial here. Like, I'm expecting to take collateral damage, but if I can't even survive one hit from the Ursaluna, the trouble is very prevalent in this matchup. All right, now that we've got the Salamence into play, we're gonna maximize our damage with Terra Dragon. We're hoping to. We didn't know what kind of EVs the Pachirisu would be into, but they invested more into speed rather than bulk, which is unfortunate. But it didn't go max speed with the Salamence, and with the max speed and Terra Dragon, I'm more than capable of KOing that Pachirisu with the Dragon Claw right there. And that also would have saved me some grief because it gets a Nuzzle off, paralyzes my Salamence, and puts it in peril here because our Typhlosion, or their Typhlosion, shows it has Rock Slide and flinches our Salamence. So what was initially a pretty good position turns into a very bad position very quickly, just due to some EV differences, unfortunately. You even see there, I live the Infernal Parade. So if not for the double up on Cresselia, I live there and possibly get off an attack there. So yeah, now it's down to Gardevoir and Vivillon, both of whom are not going to do amazing damage here. And then the Vivillon, of course, under threat of the Rock Slide. I foolishly decide to Sleep Powder the Typhlosion, completely forgetting about Cresselia's Lunar Blessing here. So even though I survived the hit and put the Typhlosion to sleep, they just clear that right up and get to be able to attack the following turn. And all I have left is Gardevoir. And I was really relying on the Vivillon staying alive. That's the only shot I have at doing any type of real damage to the Cresselia. So if I can go like Sleep Powder Cresselia, maybe survive, Sleep Powder the Typhlosion, I might have a chance to claw back. But even then, I was in a tough position as soon as the Salamence went down. And now my opponent, very comfortable with 3 Pokemon still left, gets to KO my Gardevoir. I just don't have enough gas in the tank, not enough ammo in the chamber. So well played to them. A number of missteps from me, unfortunately, but their very strong lead is just able to kind of blow through my entire team and present a question that I have to answer, and I didn't answer it appropriately. So we'll hold that L for the week, the first loss. So this puts me at 5-1. So I think we're tied in record, and they have the head-to-head. So if it ever comes to a tie down in the standings at the end of week 9, they should take first place. Again, congrats to them. Either way, again, this was a double header day for me, so keep an eye out for the next video for week number 7. We'll go into that. But either way, leave a like and a comment, and I'll see you in that next one. Take care.